Okay, let's talk about something none of us ever wants to deal with, but, chances are we will at some point. Getting your car towed. Now, you may think a tow truck is a tow truck, right? But it turns out there are actually two completely different systems at play. And knowing the difference, well, that can save you a ton of time, a whole lot of money, and some serious stress. So let's dive in. Just picture it. You're cruising along, music's on, everything's fine. And then you hear it. That awful clunk, maybe a shudder, and then nothing. Just silence. You're stuck. Stranded on the side of the road, plans ruined, and that sinking feeling in your stomach just takes over. It's a feeling we all know, and it is the worst. So you've managed to get the car over to the shoulder, you've got the hazard lights blinking, and you whip out your phone. Now what? The pressure is on. You've got to get moving, you need help, and you need it fast. This right here, this is the critical moment. And the decision you make can send you down two very, very different paths.
Let's be real, in that moment of pure panic, what's the first thing most of us are going to type into our phones? Yep, some version of cheap towing near me or fastest tow truck. It's a totally normal reaction, right? You've got a sudden, probably expensive problem, and you're just looking for a quick, affordable fix.
But here's the trap, and this quote from the Nationwide Group absolutely nails it. That super tempting low price you see on Google, it's often just the bait. It's the lure that pulls you into a world of potential headaches that can turn that cheap tow into a seriously expensive nightmare. And this brings us to what I'm calling the first world of towing, the open market. See, when you just have a standard breakdown, you're basically a customer shopping for a service, and you're shopping in a competitive and, let's be honest, sometimes shady and unregulated space. Like any marketplace, you really need to know what you're doing. So let's talk about the money traps first. That lowball call-out fee? It can suddenly explode with all sorts of hidden charges. Per kilometer fees, after-hour surcharges, you name it. And what if the operator isn't properly insured and they damage your car? Guess who could be stuck with the bill? You. And it's not just about the money either. To keep those prices rock bottom, some companies cut corners on the stuff that actually matters. We're talking old, outdated trucks that can scratch or dent your car, drivers who don't really have the training to handle your vehicle safely, and, of course, those super long waits that can leave you stranded somewhere unsafe for hours. All of a sudden, saving $20 doesn't seem so smart, does it?
Okay, so that's the whole breakdown scenario. You're in a marketplace, you've got to be careful. But what happens if the situation is way more serious? What if you've actually been in an accident? Well, everything you thought you knew about calling a tow truck is about to get thrown right out the window.
This slide, right here, is the most important thing to understand. For a breakdown, you're in that open market we talked about. You choose who you call. But for an accident, in a lot of places, you're in a completely different world, a regulated system where a provider is assigned to you. This is the fundamental difference, and it changes absolutely everything. So let's explore the second world, the regulated system that's specifically designed for road accidents. This whole system isn't about you shopping for the best deal. It's about ensuring safety, efficiency, and trying to bring some order to a really chaotic and stressful situation. And there's actually a clear legal line here. According to the Essential Services Commission, accident towing is specifically for damaged vehicles at an accident scene. Everything else, your standard breakdown, a car parked where it shouldn't be, just moving a car from A to B, that all falls under trade towing, which operates back in that open, unregulated market. Now, these regulations don't just apply everywhere. They're only in effect in specific zones which are called controlled areas. This map, for example, shows the one for Melbourne. If your accident happens inside this boundary, you're in the regulated system. If it's just outside, you're back in the open market. And here's how it actually works. Inside one of these controlled areas, a central dispatcher uses a roster to assign the next licensed tow truck in line. So you don't get to pick. The whole point is to get a safe, fast, and orderly response, with a qualified operator showing up in about half an hour. Of course, this immediately brings up a huge question. If you can't choose your provider, how do you know you're not getting ripped off, right? How are the prices even set, and are they actually fair?
Well, regulators use a pretty smart process called benchmarking. They don't just invent a number. They carefully compare the regulated accident towing fees to what's being charged in other big cities. And they also look at what the prices are for unregulated trade towing. It helps them figure out if the set fees are reasonable and actually reflect the real cost of providing a safe and speedy service.
So let's actually look at the numbers. This table shows the average fee for a standard accident tow in a few different cities. And as you can see, Melbourne's fee is kind of right there in the middle of the pack,
cheaper than Sydney and Adelaide, a bit more than Queensland. This is benchmarking in action, and it helps make sure the prices are fair.
So after all that analysis, what was the final verdict from the regulators? Well, they concluded that the fees for accident towing in that Melbourne-controlled area are in fact appropriate. They're fair, they're consistent with other cities, and they allow for the safe and efficient clearing of accident scenes, which is the whole point.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the two different worlds of towing. Now let's pull it all together into a simple, easy-to-remember toolkit so you can be prepared no matter what happens on the road.
Here's your game plan. Number 1. For a simple breakdown, remember you are shopping. Take a deep breath and an extra minute to vet your choice. Ask for the total price up front, and please confirm they're licensed and insured. Number 2. If you're in an accident inside a controlled area, remember you're in a system. A tow truck will be assigned to you and those fees are regulated and fixed. And number 3, and this goes for both situations, your safety is always the number 1 priority. Don't ever be afraid to ask the driver questions about what's going on. So the next time you find yourself on the shoulder of a road, just remember what we talked about today. The real question isn't just about finding the cheapest price tag. It's about understanding which of the two worlds you're in, knowing your rights, and making a smart choice. A choice that's really about choosing a professional service, not just a price.